Become a Leslie's Pro member, and with almost 1,000 locations conveniently located less than 3 miles from your service route, you can quickly get in and out and take care of your customers. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software platform. Listeners of the podcast can try Skimmer for free. Visit my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, and click on the Leslie's Pro and the Skimmer banners to learn more.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about a scam that's going around, and it's affecting the pool service industry. And it's a really well-orchestrated scam that is really leading to a lot of loss of money in your business if you fall for it. And I'll go over some of the details of this and so you can kind of spot it right away. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro. So in the group chat that I have with my coaching members, there's been this thread in there about being contacted by someone who just bought a house. They're from out of state and they want you to do the service for them. And that's kind of just a summary of the introduction to the scam. And you may get one of these messages through either directly from your website. They may call you from having gotten your number from your website, or it may be through one of these apps like Home Advisor or Thumbtack. The scam basically is going to cost you money, and it's going to be very frustrating for you. And it's so legitimate sounding. It's not like the Nigerian prince email you get or the winning lottery ticket and they need some money to, whatever. I can't remember how that lottery one goes, but I've gotten that one before as well. This one is pretty sophisticated and it's really something to keep an eye out for. So basically, the member of my group called me and he kind of ran down the whole thing. He actually went through the whole process, but didn't get scammed out of the money because he already knew it was a scam and he stopped at a certain point. But there is something to really be worried about because it is something that sounds so real, and I'll go over it here for you. So basically, they called him and they said they bought a house. They're from out of state. They bought a house in his service area. They give him the address. He looked it up on Zillow. He can see that it just sold a week ago and it had a pool in the backyard. And they told him what would be the cost of maintaining this pool for them. They're kind of be coming in, in a month or two, and they want him to start service on this pool. Basically, it's at this point, your radar is probably up thinking, there's something weird here. But he quoted them. He knew it was a scam, so he quoted them his rate. They accepted right away, and they said they're going to send him a cashier's check for 6 months of the service rate he could start next week or whatever. Basically, the check is actually sent to you. You get this cashier's check for this amount, but there's some money added to it. So the scam works in different ways. They could have, added extra money and said they overpaid you. Like, I'll get to that later. Or part of the scam that they did with him, the message they gave him is that they owed the seller some money and they put it in the amount. They added it to the cashier's check for the monthly service. So part of how the scam works is that they want to be notified when you put the cashier's check in your bank. So you deposit the cashier's check in the bank, and it's like a significant amount of money. So it looks really legitimate because it's thousands of dollars. You're like, wow, this is good. They're giving me all this money. So once you put the cashier's check in the bank, they want you to notify them that you did. And then they tell you, in his case, they wanted him to Zelle the owner $3,000 that they owed him, the owner of the house, $3,000. I'm not sure exactly what the story was. Maybe it was, they put new equipment in or something and they had to pay him for it. So you Zelle the owner $3,000, which you're actually Zelling the scammers $3,000. And then the cashier bounces a few days later and you've lost $3,000. You sent them the money and they disappear. Now the scam works in a similar fashion. Maybe they'll send you the 6 months of pool service money and they'll add an extra couple thousand. And then they call you and say, oh, you know what? We put the wrong amount on the cashier's check. Can you Zelle me back $2,000? We overpaid you. and then you Zelle them back that money. And of course, once you Zelle somebody money, it's done and the check bounces. So be aware of this scam. It's something that I think is it crosses all industries, but for the pool service industry specifically, it's really easy to fall for this because, especially if you're new and someone tells you that they're going to pay you 6 months in advance and they give you an actual cashier's check, which looks legitimate. I mean, this is a cashier's check, but be aware that there's a lot of online banks and a lot of banks where you can just open an account and close an account with really no repercussions, and they don't ask for a lot of information, especially for online bank accounts. And this is an easy scam to pull off, I think, in a lot of cases. How can you avoid something like this? Of course, you would want to meet whoever is going to do the service, or you want to legitimately find out if this person bought the house. It's one of those things where they already know this. The scammers know that there's a delay with the county recording the deed of who transfers ownership, about a 3 or 4 week delay in a lot of cases, depending on your county. So there's no way for you to go and check to see if this person actually bought this house. One thing that you should do, and I think this is something that you can do very easily, is that if they tell you they bought this house, I would contact the realtor on Zillow. Usually the realtor has their phone number there, and you can say, "Hi, I received a call from so-and-so saying they bought this property and they want me to pool service. I'm a little leery here because I think it might be a scammer. There's a scam going around where they want you to service the pool and they give you money and then they ask for some of it back. So I wanted to make sure that this particular person actually bought this property. Is there any way you can put me in touch with the buyer's agent, or if you can verify it for me?" The realtor that listed the house will know the buyer is in escrow. They'll know who the buyer is. They'll know the name. And you just have to convince them that you are legitimately asking a question for this reason that you think you're being scammed. Most realtors will tell you, they probably will be like, "Well, what's the name of the person?" And then you tell them the name and they'll be like, "No, the name doesn't match." They probably won't tell you the buyer's name. There's some confidentiality, but you can just tell them, "If I tell you the name of the person that called me, can you tell me yes or no if that's the buyer?" And I think that's the best way to approach it. That way there's no breach of confidentiality. And the realtor will tell you, "No, that's not the buyer." Then you know right there that's a scam. So I would go to that next step if I were to receive this call saying that they're from out of state, they bought this house, and they want you to do service on it. Another part of the scam that I think is a red flag is someone paying you 6 months in advance. We can't even get a customer to pay us 1 month in advance, so getting someone to pay 6 months in advance is very enticing, and it's something that you may fall for because it's like, well, they're going to pay me 6 months of my pool service. They accepted my quote without question. I looked at the pool on the website. I can see, or on Google Maps, and I can see the size of it. I gave them a kind of a quote without seeing it. Another red flag, when you're quoting just over the phone and someone's willing to accept service without even you going to the pool, a problem there. Now, there's, of course, different layers of this scam. I believe it was one of my members in Houston that got this, or somewhere in Texas, where he actually went to the pool and it wasn't even the person. It was like someone else the owner of the house was actually there. They had moved in early or something. So he actually went to the house to look at it. And so that's another whole layer of the scam, is that if they know the house is vacant, they'll actually send you down there and you'll look at the pool, and it looks even more legitimate because now you're in the backyard looking at this pool that they're calling you on to give them a quote and that they want you to do service and they're going to pay you 6 months in advance. This particular instance, the owner had actually moved in, and so it was not even the person that contacted him, and right away that exposes a scam. But they're really sophisticated. That would be another layer to be careful of, is that they give you the address, you go there, you look at the pool, the house is vacant, because there is a gap when someone moves in after they buy the house. It's kind of a 2-week gap sometimes while they're moving things and getting things ready. So they already know that the house is not even occupied. I've even had a house vacant for over a month when someone bought it. So this is something to be aware of, and it's something that's another layer again that makes it look even more legitimate. But the red flag should be someone willing to pay you 6 months in advance for pool service that you hadn't even started yet. Then when you get a cashier's check from an unknown bank, that's another thing that should concern you, because there's other ways to send you money that's legitimate. I mean, why would they be sending you a cashier's check when they can Zelle you the money, or they can, give you a wire. I mean, a wire transfer is, so here's something that is, something you may not know this unless you do a lot of real estate transactions, but the cashier's check used to be a really good way of doing a deposit when you're buying a house. For many years, if you bought a house, you go to the bank, you get a cashier's check, and then you would take it to the escrow office. I know it sounds ancient, but that's kind of how things were done. Now, what you do is you do a wire transfer directly to the escrow. It's really specific because a wire transfer, if you do it wrong, can go into someone's account. You'll never get that money back. It's really difficult. So why in the world would they send you a cashier's check in this modern era of online banking when they can simply wire you the money? Because that cashier's check is going to bounce. That's why they have the cashier's check. Or they can Zelle you the money or Venmo the money to you. So that's another red flag. No one really uses cashier's checks for large transactions anymore that I know of. And if someone was going to deal with me with a cashier's check, I would be very leery of that because that's not something that people do anymore. I mean, I haven't drawn a cashier's check probably in a good 10 years. Everything is done wiring the money, large amounts of money from one bank to another, and there's no need to get a cashier's check in this modern era. So red flag number 3 or 4, I'm losing track here, is the cashier's check. And then the final red flag is the fact that they want you to Zelle money back to the seller or Zelle money back to them because they overpaid you. Now here's where you should already know at this point that this is a scam. If you don't know at this point, then you're going to lose $2,000 or $3,000 because you just were not thinking clearly. And if someone asks you to Zelle money to somebody else, they could easily Zelle it themselves. There's no reason to give you the money so that you can Zelle it to the owner. They can Zelle it directly to that person, or they can draw a cashier's check and give it to the owner themselves. So that's a red flag that should not be ignored, nor the fact that they say they overpaid you. So let's say they sent you a cashier's check for $3,000 and they should have just gave you $1,000 and they ask you to send them $2,000 back. At that point, I would say, sure, I'll Zelle you the money, but let me wait until the cashier's check clears my account because it seems to still be processing. So give me a couple days there and I'll get that money over to you. I think one of the things that really makes this scam work is that they already know that you're a service in the service industry, and they also know that you want to make everyone happy because that's kind of how you get new customers and keep your customers. We have this really good service mentality in pool service, like, oh yeah, I got to make this person happy. So yeah, I'll Zelle them back the balance. They overpaid. I see the mistake here. When I put the check in, I thought it was a larger amount than they initially had agreed to. And so you're going to automatically assume that you're being good in your service, a good service provider, by immediately giving the money back to the customer because that's what you do. You do service, you're courteous, and you're concerned about the customer being happy. They play off of that because they know that we're in a service industry and that's going to happen. And so you may be tempted to send them back the balance before that check clears, and that's what they're hoping for. How successful are these people in the scams? Well, it's all over the place because I'm getting messages from a lot of different pool professionals that this scam is active. One member in Pasadena got this, Houston, Florida. So it's a pretty active scam. The person that actually went through with this whole thing to the end, he didn't sell him the money. I think he did. I don't know if he put the check in the bank. He may have, but he didn't sell him the money. And he already knew it was a scam, so he wanted to play it out all the way to see what happened. He was in Henderson, Nevada. So basically, it's all over the place. They probably get a lot of hits. They probably get a lot of wins in this scam. Otherwise, they wouldn't continue it. And again, there's all different levels of the scam. It may just be the Zillow listing of the house they bought with the pool. It may be as far as you going down there and looking at the pool. I don't think it's ever been where you actually meet somebody. That hasn't happened, I don't think. It maybe has happened. But I think the scam is very successful because it plays off of several things. Not necessarily greed, but a good deal because you're doing a pool on a house that someone's coming into that's probably really nice, and you're also getting 6 months in advance. So everyone wants a new account. and it's a perfect situation. Someone wanting an account, they're coming from out of state, and they're going to pay you in advance. So that too is good. Too good to be true, I guess, would be something that makes it obvious. But it plays into that, okay, I got a new service account. It's a great looking pool, and they paid me 6 months in advance. Hard to turn that down. But when the scam gets to the point where you have to Zelle the money back, that's when you should know it's a scam. And when you're Zelling somebody, it tells you on Zelle, are you sure that this is a person that you should send money to, because there's no way to get the money back once you Zelle it. That should be a red flag there too. You're Zelling to an unknown person, and of course the check bounces and then you're out of luck. So keep your eyes open for this scam. It may come in various forms, and ultimately it ends with you sending money back to the person doing the scam and you losing money. Again, no one uses cashier's checks that I know of. I wouldn't take one. I would just tell them, wire me the money. If you want to do the 6 months in advance, send me a wire through your bank, and then I'll start service on your pool. And you would cut that scam down at that point, because they probably won't be able to wire the money, because wire transfers are legitimate. Cashier's checks, obviously in a bank that they open where there's no money in the account, are definitely something to be aware of. So this is something that, again, I'm bringing to your attention because it's a real thing in the industry, and it's a real emerging scam. Well, not really emerging, because it's been going on maybe now for a year or two that I know of from the first reports of it. And I think it's something, again, don't be taken in by these people. The deal sounds too good to be true. It probably is. If you're looking for other podcasts I recorded, you can find them on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. Just click on the podcast icon on the banner, and there'll be a drop-down menu of over 1,500 podcasts for you there. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. Real quick, if you're not using pool service software, try Skimmer free for 30 days at getskimmer.com/poolguy. Again, that's getskimmer.com/poolguy. Skimmer, everything you need to run your pool service business all in one app.